I think watercolors look best when you paint them in two main layers. It makes things simple. So here is a little scene that I drew in a bit earlier. And what we're going to do first in this strategy is that we're going to paint the light all in one wash. And I find the easiest way to do that is just to start picking up a bit of, in this particular case, a bit of yellow paint. And I'm going to go through, this is just a bit of yellow ochre. And watch what I'm doing. I'm just essentially moving the brush across, okay, through that building, the one to the right. Okay, you can even mix in a little bit of white in there if you want. So if you don't want the whole building to be the same yellowy color, we can add in other colors as well like that. And not only that, we can pick up things like a bit of brown, So you're letting these colors mix together, all these light colors, and they're normally warmer colors as well. When you're talking about light, normally we're speaking of warmer colors, okay? In some cases, you can even just leave the white of the paper showing through in order to signify the light. So you get all the light on the buildings. Of course, you get a bit on the ground as well. So I can just quickly paint that all in. And notice how I'm letting everything join together. I'm letting the colors of the ground join together with areas of the building. See, I'm bringing that color of the building down into the ground as well. Okay, and I'm using a large mop brush, okay, a brush that's large enough anyway in order to cut around all the small details, but allow me to paint all this stuff in with a few quick brush strokes. You don't want to be using a little brush, a little round brush like this one. That's going to take you all day to do. So once you've got in all of these light colors, of course, one thing I've forgotten to do is just a bit of the sky, which also counts as a light color, okay, like this. So I'll just paint that in very quickly in just one quick go, like that, okay? One quick go. And if it joins onto the building, if you get a bit of mixing into the buildings, it doesn't matter either, okay? So all this light we've managed to get in very quickly. If on the figures, I haven't really put anything on the figures, it doesn't matter, you can. So now that this is all dried, what we want to do in the second step of the strategy is get in the dark colors. And for the purposes of this particular video, I'm going to simplify it down and just put in a bit of neutral tint. I think I've got some purple on my palette as well. I'm picking up a pretty dark color here. Okay, but it's still about 50% paint, 50% water. Now we've got to think about where's that light source coming from. Now I'm assuming in this particular scene, especially because I haven't got the reference photo, but I've just had to make up the light because I know in the original reference photo it was a very, very overcast day. There weren't any natural sort of sharp shadows coming in. So I think to myself, well, maybe I can put the shadow coming in from the left, which means if there's a shadow coming in from the left, we're going to have darkness on the front of this building here, on the side of this building, I mean. Okay, so this whole building we can get in a little bit darker. Now, of course, I'm just simplifying this down, but normally I'd put in a bit more different colors in there as well. Okay, but just doing it just this one wash, it is sufficient. Now, what we can do, we can think to ourselves, well, we've got the legs of this figure as well. Just get in the legs of that figure, okay? And not only that, we're going to think, well, since the sun's coming in from the left, we're also going to get shadows running to the right, okay? Like this, from the building. So I can just go ahead, pick up that same paint, and get in the shadows running to the right. Okay, sometimes you can just leave little specks of light showing through in areas like that. Okay, but just a little bit like this, it might touch the legs of these figures. And look at how I am joining this large shadow shape onto the figures as well. Okay, and the shadow of those figures, you can even just darken the legs of the figures a little bit more if you want. I normally try to bring out the legs, make the legs a bit darker so that they come through better. Okay, like that. And of course, you're probably going to get some shadows on the buildings to the right as well. So you might get a bit of shadow underneath the buildings here. Okay, just cutting around the figures. Okay, but again, we're kind of just joining everything in, all these shadows. Even look at that, the the shadow underneath that car there. I'm just picking up again some more of that dark color. It doesn't matter what color it is, okay, like that. That joins on to the buildings there, okay, all these shadows underneath the car, like that. Okay, and that in turn now joins on to the buildings to the left, okay. You might even have some shadows on the buildings themselves. So like back here, that might be a bit of shadow that's cast onto the buildings to the right, you know. Okay, so maybe a bit of something in there like that. But as you can see, it's just all one big shadow that you've painted in, and it makes it so much easier than working on this little bit here and then stopping and doing this. It all flows together and it looks cohesive. It joins the painting together. Because in real life, you do get a lot of those mixing of colors. You get a lot of these shadows just mingling and mixing together. So we've got that second step in now. Another thing you might want to do is, okay, you know, you've got these signposts and that kind of thing. I might put in a little bit of darkness on some of those signposts as well. With everything pretty much dried off, the third part of this process is bringing things together by adding in a tiny bit of detail. And for that, we're just picking up a small round brush, a synthetic round brush, picking up a bit of paint here on the side, a little bit of this neutral tint or whatever dark paint that you have available, and I'm putting in just a little touch of water, but it's mostly just paint. And I'm thinking to myself, well, where are the, you know, the darkest areas of these scenes? Well, we've got like windows here, you know, got maybe a doorway here or something behind that figure, maybe something here. We've got this traffic, I don't know, it could be a traffic pole there, just putting it in. Okay, there's not a whole lot of water in there, just enough to activate the paint, but we want it to be a lot darker than the previous washes. Okay, this sign or whatever there as well. Okay, like that. You know, we've also got, what else do we have? You know, these little, tiny little windows on the buildings. And look at how it just makes that light kind of pop out a bit better as well. Okay, in areas like that. I can just soften off if I've gone too far. Sometimes that happens. Okay, but just these tiny little bits and pieces, you know, sometimes you can put in hair on the figures as well, like that, just to, you know, I'm really simplifying this down. You can put a bag or something, put people holding bits of shopping and stuff like that as well. That really helps to just bring the scene together. You know, the wheels as well, you might think to yourself, maybe the wheels of the car just need to be darkened. You know, you're thinking, you know, some windows and underneath these signs and stuff like that, you know, just bringing out that extra sort of extra bit of darkness underneath behind those cars to make the cars pop out. Okay, bit of these perspective lines here in the ground, that looks good over the top like that. The only thing I really haven't done is maybe just added some color in for the cars themselves like that. I can just put a bit of blue there, I can just leave that one a bit, doesn't matter. Just kind of experimenting around, but as you can see, just from a few little steps, we have a pretty cohesive little sketch. You know, we can see where the lights come from, and we've got the light all in one wash. Let it dry, put all the shadows in one wash, let that dry, and in the final step, we're just sharpening up some details. We're just adding in a bit of extra color here and there. And sometimes I also like to pick up a bit of white gouache to bring out some additional highlights. So always make sure that you are following this general process when you're painting. That's going to lead to more vibrant, fresh looking paintings. Even when there are little details like you can see here, it tells a very clear story. The light, the street scene, the figures walking around, it does make sense, and you're going to save yourself a lot of time and frustration, and stay away from picking those little brushes and painting with those. If you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments and I'll get back to you. If you enjoyed this video as well, do me a favor and click the like button on the video and share it with a friend. It really helps to get my videos out to more people. And if you want to see more watercolor tutorials and tips, make sure you subscribe. Hey there, if you really want to level up your watercolor skills, feel confident and relaxed when you're painting, and just be proud to show your friends and family the beautiful paintings you create, check out my 70-course Watercolor Essentials program in the video description. I also have a Patreon with up to 84 exclusive premium courses. You can sign up and cancel at any time. The link is also below in the description.